Picture your average Tuesday. You wake up, check your phone, eat something, go somewhere, come back, eat again, scroll, sleep. It feels routine. It feels almost embarrassingly ordinary. But here's the thing, that Tuesday, as mundane as it seems, is one of the most historically bizarre days any human being has ever lived through, because for 300,000 years, your ancestors woke up to something almost unrecognizably different. And most of what you picture when you imagine their lives is completely wrong. You probably think of them as constantly on the move, desperate, scraping by, hunting giant animals through frozen tundra, barely surviving, always one bad day away from extinction. That image is everywhere. In movies, in textbooks, in the back of your own mind when someone says prehistoric humans. But researchers who have spent decades studying hunter-gatherer societies, both ancient and the few that still exist today, keep arriving at the same uncomfortable conclusion. Ancient humans were not nearly as busy as you are. That stops people cold every time. Not as busy, not as exhausted, not as stressed. In fact, by several measurable standards, they had significantly more free time than most people alive today. Here's how that's even possible. The core misunderstanding is about what survival actually required. Modern life runs on a clock. You have deadlines, schedules, rent cycles, quarterly reviews. Your survival is entangled with systems that never stop demanding your attention. But hunter-gatherer survival was task-based, not time-based. You didn't work 8 hours because the calendar said so. You worked until the task was done. And the task, finding enough food for the day, often took far less time than you'd expect. Anthropologist Marshall Solins studied this in the 1960s and called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society, not affluent in the modern sense. Affluent in the older, simpler sense, having enough, wanting little, needing less. Studies of groups like the Kung San of the Kalahari showed that adults spent somewhere between 3 and 5 hours per day on food-related activities, foraging, hunting, preparing. Then they stopped because they had enough. The rest of the day was theirs. So what did they actually do with it? They talked a lot. If you could sit invisibly in a camp of Homo sapiens from 50,000 years ago, the most striking thing might not be the tools or the fire or the animal skins. It might be the noise, the laughter, the constant overlapping, animated conversation. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, the same person who gave us the theory that your brain can only maintain about 150 genuine social relationships, found that modern hunter-gatherer groups spend the majority of their non-foraging time in social bonding, talking, teasing, telling stories, gossiping. Yes, gossiping. About 65% of all human conversation across cultures, ancient and modern, is social information. Relationship maintenance. Who did what? Who found the best berries? Who said something worth repeating? The original social network, running entirely on speech. And then there was sleep. Not your sleep, better sleep. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups in Tanzania, Namibia, and Bolivia consistently show something that sleep researchers find almost haunting. No alarm clocks, no artificial light, no blue light anxiety spiral at midnight. They sleep when it gets dark, they wake with the light. The architecture of their sleep, the cycling through deep sleep stages, appears more consistent and uninterrupted than the sleep of people in industrialized nations. Your ancestors were almost certainly better rested than you are right now. There were also naps. Midday rest is documented in nearly every studied hunter-gatherer culture. The heat of the day was a natural pause, not laziness, strategy. Move less when the sun is highest, conserve water, avoid heat, exhaustion. It also aligns perfectly with a natural dip in human alertness that your body still produces every afternoon. The one you fight with your third coffee. Children played. This sounds obvious until you look closely. Hunter-gatherer children didn't go to school. There was no curriculum, no structured learning period, no separation of play from education. Everything was integrated. A child learning to track an animal was playing a game and absorbing survival knowledge at the same time. Childhood was just a smaller, freer version of adult life, enormous amounts of unstructured outdoor time. Build things, break things, follow adults around, try things, fail, try again. Adults made things, not in a factory sense, in the deeply personal sense of craft. Tool making was a significant part of daily life. Flint knapping, the process of shaping stone into tools by striking it precisely, is a skill that takes years to master and hours to execute. You need the right stone, the right angle, the right force. Too much and it shatters. Too little and nothing happens. Researchers have noted that experienced flint knappers enter a focused, almost meditative state during the work. It demanded full presence. It was, in a meaningful way, the original deep work. There was music. There was almost certainly dance. Bone flutes, some of the oldest musical instruments ever found, date back at least 40,000 years. One was discovered in a cave in Germany, carved from a vulture wing bone. It still plays. Someone made that. Someone sat down with a bone and decided to make it sing. And where there's an instrument, there's performance, there's a fire and a night, and people watching and listening. Your ancient ancestors held concerts. They also argued, hard. Egalitarianism in hunter-gatherer societies wasn't a romantic myth. It was an enforced social technology. Status hierarchies were actively suppressed. Anyone who tried to hoard resources or dominate others was mocked, excluded, or worse. Anthropologists called this leveling mechanisms. If you came back from a successful hunt and bragged about it, people would deliberately undervalue your kill. They'd say the meat was thin, the animal was small, the hunt wasn't impressive. Not because it was true, because unchecked ego was a group-level threat. Ancient humans were not peaceful and harmonious. They were human. They cared for each other in ways that rewrote how researchers think about prehistoric compassion. Skeletal remains from Neanderthals show healed injuries that would have required long recovery periods during which the injured individual could not have fed themselves. Someone fed them. Someone stayed. A Neanderthal found in Shanidar Cave in Iraq was blind in one eye, had a withered arm, and walked with a severe limp. He survived for years with all of these conditions. His group kept him alive. Caring for the vulnerable wasn't a modern invention. It was already a feature of human life long before civilization gave it a name. Evenings around fire were unlike anything in your experience. Not just in what happened, the stories, the warmth, the protection, but in what fire itself did to the human mind. A 2014 study gave participants recordings of crackling fire. Just the sound. People showed measurable decreases in blood pressure. They became warmer, more open, more trusting. Researchers believe the effect runs deep. You are the descendant of creatures who gathered around flames every single night for hundreds of thousands of years. The reason a candlelit dinner feels more intimate than fluorescent lights isn't a coincidence. It isn't marketing. It's ancient. What they didn't have is just as telling. They didn't have loneliness in the modern sense. True social isolation was nearly impossible in a band of 25 to 50 people who moved together, ate together, slept near each other. They didn't have sedentary days, not because they were constantly running, but because even rest was interspersed with low-intensity movement. Sitting still for 10 consecutive hours was not part of the human body plan. Your spine knows this, even if your chair doesn't. And they didn't have decision fatigue. No overwhelming menu of choices about identity, career, diet, lifestyle, relationships. Their constraints were real and often brutal. But they were clear. None of this is a case for going back. You wouldn't survive a week in the actual Paleolithic. The maternal mortality rate alone would horrify you. The infections, the cold, the violence, the genuine possibility of starvation lurking under even the good days. But here's what doesn't leave you once you've read it. You still have the brain from that life. The one built for 3 to 5 hours of purposeful work, long social afternoons, naps, fire, stories, music, craft, and deep sleep. That brain is sitting inside a Tuesday with back-to-back meetings, 100 unread messages, food from a bag, and a screen that never turns off. And it is doing its absolute best. It's looking for the gossip in the group chat. It's reaching for the fire in the candle app. It's finding the hunt in the video game. It's searching for the story in the podcast. It's trying to be ancient in a world that forgot what ancient felt like. Your ancestors didn't spend all day surviving. They spent all day being human. And somewhere underneath everything you've been told to do with your time, that's still exactly what you're trying to do too.